So, welcome to the convocation ceremony for the inaugural class of University of South Carolina School of Medicine, Greenville. I'm Jerry Yuki, the founding dean. I have a couple of housekeeping things to ask of you first. We ask you silence your cell phones if you haven't yet, and we ask that you refrain from flash photography if you can. And if you can't, I get it. So I'm going to come back in a few minutes and introduce some people and make a couple of opening remarks. But for starters, while you're standing, I'd like to invite Reverend John Hartman, a good friend of mine, to come and say our invocation.
Let us pray. Gracious God, giver of life, we pause to drink in the deep sense of accomplishment, pride, and hope that infuse these moments. The graduation of these students from the University of South Carolina School of Medicine, Greenville, is worth celebrating. It is a cause for gratitude and thanksgiving. These moments are worth savoring for a long time. In many ways, it seems as though the journey through medical school began just yesterday for students and faculty, yet in many ways, it seems like a journey that began long ago. Much has happened. Many challenges have surfaced and been met. Many losses have invaded life and been grieved. New creative energy has spurted into life and has brought forth new learning. Exhaustion has been met and overcome. New relationships have been forged and formed. Knowledge as related to the practice of medicine has blossomed like the spring flowers over and over again. In these moments, O God, we bundle together the myriad experiences that have shaped the medical school experience and vouchsafe them in the hope chest of budding vocational identities. May these new graduates bask in the joy of this day, and may their fierce dedication to the preservation of patients' lives create a world marked by justice, compassion, and peace. Amen.
Please be seated. I'm going to keep my remarks very brief. I frankly just want to say to everyone in the room here today, and many, many people outside the room, a heartfelt thanks. There isn't anyone here whose involvement as a parent, as a grandparent, as a faculty member, as staff, and so forth, wasn't in one way or another critical to this medical school getting started and to this class getting through 4 arduous years. This has been an incredible experience with the inaugural class. They are truly, as Jim Buggy says, the pioneers. I'd like to recognize up here on the platform party with me, Michelle Seaver and Sean Dogan, 2 of our board members, Joint Board Liaison Committee, Chip Wiper, Chairman of OBGYN, David Williams, Chairman of Radiology, Peter Tilkmeyer, Chairman of Medicine, Jesse Stafford, Chairman of Pathology, Bill Schmidt, Chairman of Pediatrics, Scott Sasser, Chairman of Emergency Medicine, Ken Rogers, Chairman of Behavioral Health, Gene Langen, Chairman of Surgery, Wendell James, Chairman of Anesthesia, Rick Hodinka, our Chairman of our Biomedical Sciences Department, Sean Bryan, Chairman of Family Practice, Brenda Thames, who is our GHS essentially provost and started what many of you know as the MedX Academy, Derek Payne, who used to be with us as our Chief Business Officer. He defected to Columbia, but I still love him very much. April Buchanan, my Assistant Dean for Clinical Clerkships, Tom Blackwell, my Assistant Dean for Longitudinal Curriculum. You would know him as Mr. EMT. Lynn Crespo, our Associate Dean for Education. Darrell Kirch is on the platform with us. He won't be speaking this evening. He is the President of the Association of American Medical Colleges out of Washington. He's been with us all day, a great visit, and will be giving the commencement address in Columbia tomorrow. Spence Taylor, my brother, my Senior Associate Dean for Academic Affairs and Diversity, Kyle Townsend, who's elected by the class to give a few remarks here this afternoon or this evening, Jim Buggy, my Associate Dean for Student Affairs, Paul Catalana, my Assistant Dean for Admissions, Mike Reardon, CEO and President of the Greenville Health System, John Hartman you met, and Bob Best, my Associate Dean for Academic Affairs. I'd also like to acknowledge in the audience Lisa Stevens, Ruth Richburg, board members Jerry Dempsey, and President of the South Carolina Medical Association, Dr. Alex Ramsey, is with us today as well. Ryan Batson, I believe, I saw him come in on the platform party as well, the class president, although he's not on my list. So he either doesn't have a chair, or he's not back there, or I missed him. So that's who's in front of you. They've all been integral to all of this. My job right now is to introduce the next speaker. And all I can tell you is that Mike Reardon, who has been here now for almost 10 years, came from the University of Chicago, was at Emory before that. On the healthcare delivery system side is my boss. And without question, GHS as a healthcare system would not be where it is now had Mike not come to South Carolina. We would not have a medical school without him, and he is, in fact, one of my best friends. And so I'd like you to welcome Mike for remarks here this afternoon.
Well, good evening. As Dean Yuki said, I'm Mike Reardon, President and CEO of Greenville Health System. Now, in my family, we have a practice of expressing 3 appreciations on special occasions. So it could be a birthday, a promotion, and certainly a graduation. So this afternoon, I'd like to bring that practice to this convocation. The only rule with this practice is that the receiver can only say thank you. And if you're wondering why the response is limited, it's because in my experience, people deflect someone's gratitude and often make a joke or downplay it or even refute the compliment. And I believe that does great harm to the person who is giving as well as receiving the compliment. All of you are in a profession that lends itself to receiving heartfelt gratitude from patients and their loved ones. I believe when you accept that gratitude with humility, you validate them and their feelings. As the receiver, this practice has the great opportunity to reconnect you with love and purpose. So here are my 3 appreciations. Number 1, I appreciate the vision of the leaders who saw a need for more physicians in our community and state and shifted the question from who or what is to blame for this physician shortage to what can we do to fix this. That big idea emerged from men and women like Drs. Sorensen and Pastides, both presidents of the University of South Carolina. From Francis Ellison and Jerry Dempsey, both chairs of the Greenville Health System Board of Trustees. From Dr. Jerry Yuki and his faculty and staff, and in particular from Dr. Spence Taylor. Number 2, I appreciate the support from the community, the partnership of Clemson and of Furman universities. Yes, I said Clemson. The endorsement from the Chamber of Commerce and the upstate businesses, and a determined group of state senators and representatives. And finally, number 3, I appreciate you, the graduates, and your pioneering spirit. I imagine some of you question the prudence of attending a school that never graduated a class, in a city that your friends or maybe in your family never even heard of or visited. And I think I also foresee a time when this community, this health system, and this school are nationally recognized and one of the great systems and schools in this country. And I think there's going to be a day when your grandchild or your great niece or nephew is going to hold up a picture and they're going to point to you with awe and with delight and say, that is my grandmother or great uncle, and they graduated from the very first class of the South Carolina School of Medicine. They are pioneers. Finally, my son has added a twist to this practice, and he now asks the person who has been the focus of this loving attention to say one thing they appreciate about themselves. I encourage you to think about that and tell someone here today what you appreciate about yourself, you've accomplished a great deal. Please accept my appreciations and my congratulations. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. It's now my privilege to invite Kyle Townsend to the podium. Kyle was elected to provide the remarks from his class. He's one of the inaugural class, will be graduating. And I can tell you, in my mind, he got elected for one of two reasons. I'm not sure which it is. The first may be the fact that he is actually chosen to do the longest residency program of anyone in the class. He's headed for, I believe, a 7-year program. So did they sort of push him forward to give this speech or this talk? Or, as I can attest, Kyle is incredibly humorous. And so we'll find out here in a few minutes why they asked him to do this. Kyle?
I was told I have 90 minutes, so I think it's the first thing that Dr. Yuki said. Thank you so much to my class for electing me for this. Good evening, and thank everyone else for coming here to this first convocation ceremony tonight. I'd like to extend a special thank you to the deans, members of administration, faculty, and staff who made tonight possible. I would also like to thank all the spouses, significant others, siblings, parents, grandparents, pets, mentors, and of all types who have taken the time to be here tonight, and also who were unable to attend. We all know that we wouldn't be here without your support, and we thank you for supporting us in these past 4 years. Now that the requisite thank yous have been given, before we get to the meat of what I would like to talk about tonight, I have a story to share followed by an apology. When I was an undergraduate, I took a class called Psychopharmacology. I met about 200 yards away over there. I went to Furman for undergrad. And in this class, we learned a lot of stuff about like how cocaine and heroin work in the brain. And we know these things based on the experiments that are given with rats and guinea pigs. So I'm in this class, and we're talking about one of these studies, and this girl is like, well, so what do you do, with the rats and the guinea pigs, like when the study's over? And the teacher kind of pauses, and I think she understood where this was going to go. And the professor said, well, we can't really allow the coke-crazed rats back into the sewer system, so they're euthanized in a humane way. And this girl was very offended by this, and she was like, oh my goodness, we're using these rats and we're killing them just so we can know how drugs work. What are we doing here? And I'm thinking to myself, what's the alternative for some of these rats? Or these guinea pigs? They're either, stuck in a box, running in a wheel, being looked at by a 5-year-old. They're in the sewer. They're running around, agitating the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think it may be better for them that they're in a box here, in an air-conditioned environment, getting fed up consistently, and they get all the drugs they want. That point didn't go over very well, not as well as it did just now in my class, but the point of the story is that it isn't always the worst thing to be a guinea pig. So, the apology... The apology is that now is not one of those times. I've never given a convocation address before, and I wasn't given the learning objectives until this morning. So I would ask my classmates to remember that for just one more time, you guys are going to need to be a guinea pig, and that thank you for your sacrifice. It'll be better for the next class. After that speech, I may be back here giving this next year, trying to graduate. A few weeks ago, Dr. Buggy emailed me and said that I had been selected as the student speaker, and I was very overwhelmed by that. It was one of the most surprising emails that I have received, and I was immediately elated. Immediately following that, I began to panic. What am I going to speak about? Is this a joke? I went to Maggie, and I was like, "What is there like a thing? Like, what am I supposed to talk about?" And she gave me her look, and many of you will know, she was like, "You can talk about whatever you want." I was like, okay, thanks for that. And that's when she told me I had 90 minutes, and I was like, what? Fortunately, it's only 10. We'll be done in a minute. Initially, I spent a large amount of time doing some free association exercises and other word vomit things I learned in my liberal arts education. And I came up with a bunch of iterations of terrible, like very over-complex speeches that I got lost writing, and I know everyone would already be asleep by now if I had chosen any of them. And so I decided that simpler is better. Tonight, what I want to do is go through some of my favorite memories from medical school. It's just a few, and I know that many of you have other memories that you probably would have wished that I included. But given our history of surveys, I decided that I would not ask everyone to give me their input. Some of these are full stories, and others are only a sentence or two about a moment in time. But all of them, I think, will contribute in some way to everyone here understanding what it's like to have gone through these 4 years with these people. It's been an incredible experience, and if I fail to convey that, please don't tell me afterwards. The first story is from even before when we started EMT, and it kind of gave us a glimpse about what the next 4 years might be like. We were charged with coming up with a skit about dress codes, and that required at least 8 meetings before we even started. And there were lots of things to love about those meetings, but the strongest memory for me was actually the first time that we were all one-upped by Dane. I was sitting in the corner asking Trevor for the third time what his name was when I hear Dane start saying everyone's name. He was like, I know everyone's name, and we had all said it only once. And he successfully went around and said every person's name. And I think the tone was a little bit set right then. On the very first day of EMT training, Dr. Blackwell decided that maybe we were all a little too cavalier and decided to set up a clinical scenario in the SEM Center. In this scenario, Dr. Blackwell, I think, probably knows the story I'm about to tell. There was someone having a heart attack, and there was a lot of yelling, and he was, trying to scare us into taking everything seriously. He succeeded, and I panicked. I was yelling, like, what am I supposed to do? I don't know what this like mannequin is sitting in the chair talking about chest pain. It's very disconcerting. It came to my attention that that patient probably needed CPR, and it was lost on me that the best way to do that is to move them to the floor. So I decided to start doing CPR with the patient in the chair. Almost needed to give Dr. Blackwell CPR because he's standing in the corner of the room, like, laughing uncontrollably. And then he proceeded to tell everyone about the stupid frat boy who tried to do CPR in the chair. Neither Dr. Blackwell nor my classmates have ever really let me live that down. One weekend during first year, we went to Evans's lake house, and this is more of a sentence about a point in time. At this time, I walked into the house, and Evans had already been there, and I learned that he owns not only a Dale Earnhardt t-shirt, jorts, and a holster that he uses to carry water around at the lake, but that he will wear all of that while mowing the yard. No one has ever been happier than Evans at that point in time. During first and second year, we have tests every couple weeks on Fridays. On Thursday nights, those of us who were still cramming, it was most of us, would at the school gather ourselves together and ride over to Haywood and go to Kanpai of Tokyo for sushi happy hour. And this story is actually more of a word of warning. And it's, if you ever go to get sushi with Alec, make sure he has his own wallet and don't offer to pay for him, because if he is challenged, he will eat 6 to 10 sushi rolls by himself. Following those tests, we would go to unwind and get lunch somewhere, Coronas or like Ale House or whatever. And I think everyone understands what I mean about unwind, and that's to go and try and remember every single question and then convince everyone else that your answer was the right one, because that's the way you should unwind after a test. My favorite part of those lunches actually was arriving to Ale House without a reservation with 25 people in tow and saying, hey, so we have 25, did you seat us? They hated us. Another moment is Dr. Buggy starting neuroscience lectures with Jimmy Buffett and a Hawaiian shirt. One of our favorite class activities also was to go and do karaoke. And one of my favorite memories is seeing everyone's face as soon as Samantha starts singing or rapping. She does both equally well. And then everyone's crestfallen face when they realize they can't top that, and then karaoke is just over. Nobody else will go up and sing. Any of you going tomorrow, I think, might hear. To karaoke, not graduation. One of my most savory memories is beating the M1s in the M1, M2 soccer game, back when we were M2s. We're obviously not M2s now. They were furious, and I loved that. I loved it. On the soccer vein, we had a 7-on-7 soccer team for, some of them had it for all 4 years of medical school. I was left out this year. But it's a co-ed league. That was bitterness, in case you missed it. And I play goalie. And I think that due to my vantage point from the back of the field, I can make some interesting observations about our team dynamic. Guys have this problem where we get older and our bodies begin to fail us, but our competitiveness just increases, and our anger with the other team also increases. This can lead to injuries and overzealous plays, and it is in stark contrast to how the girls on the team behave. Many of them are in better shape than us, I will admit that, but they are cold and calculating, and I have never seen someone move as little as Elise and put more guys on the ground. She's just like smiling, and then their biggest guy's like on the ground. It's insane. The same goes for Kim, Shay, and Magdalene. The guys on the other team will always give them the benefit of the doubt, like with the first play, and then after that it's just, they get owned, and then after that it's lights out for them and everyone else. When I was a third year, I herniated a disc in my lower back and ended up needing surgery. At the time I was on a rotation and was unable to take the time off to have the surgery, so I tried to get through with epidural steroid injections. We all know Dr. Jarecki does those, so I went to see him. And I was in a lot of pain for my first one, and before my first one, and before my second one. When I showed up, I was waiting there, and Dr. Jarecki walks in, and, hey, how you doing? And I was like, I'm doing good. He's like, okay, well, let's look at your imaging, and hey, what do you think that thing is? What is it? It's a dorsal root ganglion. I don't know who put that there. So Dr. Jarecki told us every time we looked at an MRI ever. I didn't really like being pimped about that stuff during lecture, but when I'm waiting for my steroid injection, it was really the time to bite the bullet and remember to improve constantly. There was also a time during ACLS training when Evans would not stop drinking water, and Aaron Dix made fun of him for that, and it was hilarious for about 20 minutes. If any of you are unsatisfied with your normal diet for your beach bod this summer, you should contact Keith when you're done. He may still have the PowerPoint where he put a hyperlink to a Russian website that would sell you a tapeworm over PayPal. We actually went to this website during our CDR presentation, and it's verified prisoner stool slurry, and that's how you get it. They'll ship it right to your door. Recently, and I just have a couple more, and then we'll be done, I promise. Recently, we've been doing a lot of grilling out at my apartment complex, the ever illustrious Bristol, or at the lofts. And at this point, I need to confess something, I think we all do, to the women who grill out with us. Whenever you all are present, it's always an amazing spread. We grill steak, we have asparagus, we have salad, we have sweet potatoes. It's like, we really go pull out all the stops. And I think that you all may be under the impression that that's just how we do it when we grill. And I would like to reassure you that that is not the case. There was a point in time a few weeks ago when we grilled out on Tuesday, and a lot of the girls were there, and we had that spread that I just described. And Wednesday, a few of us, just the girls were going to have like girls' night or something, I don't know, and we were going to grill out, and Alex shows up with like 5 packs of hot dogs. That was it. We didn't have chips, we didn't have salad, we had nothing. We ate hot dogs on white bread, and we ate them the next day too. And it was fantastic. So when y'all are gone, we don't eat as well, so thank you. I only managed to convince 2 of my classmates to come and eat Five Guys breakfast with me at the Atlanta airport during interview season. But for any of you who find yourself at the Atlanta airport before 10 a.m., go to Concourses C and D and get the Five Guys breakfast. It's amazing. And one of my happiest memories was how good Magdalene actually thought it was. My favorite memory thus far, though, has been match day. And this is a little bit more sentimental, but we were all really invested in each other's process. I swore I wasn't going to cry. I did. And many of you swore that you weren't going to cry, and I saw a lot of you crying too. And I mean, how could we not? That was the culmination of many moments, starting with away rotation applications the year before, which a vivid memory of mine is actually when I was accepted to my first one. Christy was sitting down there in the lounge, and I was like, whoa, I got, an away rotation is kind of the first sign of external validation for many of us that we might actually like match and have jobs. I think the administration was equally as happy. Some of us were gone during application season and interview offering season, and it was noticeable that not having your class around to celebrate with you and talk through, you didn't get an interview somewhere, you did get an interview somewhere. We all texted about it, but it's not the same. Our class has grown very close. There are many, many more memories from medical school that have made these 4 years the most rewarding of my life so far. I've left a lot out, and some of you are probably very upset with me about that. Many times, of course, I wished I wasn't in medical school. I wished I was off doing almost anything else. Oddly, this was almost always around reflection due dates. I imagine that the original admission committee is not surprised at how fantastic everyone has turned out. They chose our class, with the exception of me, as a group of students who they thought would mesh well, would adapt under rapidly changing circumstances, and who would take personal responsibility for their own learning and success. It is hard to explain the uncertainty of embarking into a curriculum that hasn't been proven with former graduates. You spend hours and hours and hours learning stuff, and in your kind of the darkest moments of that, you wonder, is this actually helping me? I don't know, and that uncertainty is sometimes overwhelming. There were no older students for us to talk to who had done this here, who had any pearls. And I think because of that, instead of being able to reach out and talk to others, we were forced to reach in and support each other. We got through by talking to each other, sharing study tips and resources, and being there for each other whenever people needed somebody to cry on their shoulder. When I was in college, I helped my sister move into her dorm. Her roommate's father was a physician and was a charter member at Eastern Tennessee State University. All he said to me when I brought up that I wanted to go to medical school and asked him about that experience was, well, we're very, very close. And at the time, that didn't make any sense to me. That just seems like an odd thing to pick out of medical school. And I think now many of my classmates are shaking their head. I think we understand perfectly, and that maybe in this case, it was not the worst thing in the world to be the guinea pigs. Now, and that kind of concludes my remarks, but now Ryan is going to come up and say a few words.
The class of 2016 would like to honor someone who's had a profound impact on all of our lives, and without whom we wouldn't be here celebrating today. This person has shown great wisdom and leadership, and no matter what the situation, has always been in our corner, supporting the students. I have a letter here commemorating the Endowed Scholarship Fund that we've been helping to set up for future students in this person's honor. So, on behalf of student government and the charter class, I'd like to present this letter along with our profound gratitude to the founding dean of the USC School of Medicine, Greenville, Dr. Jerry Yuki. And our faculty speaker was chosen by the class for his clinical prowess and his intense dedication to our class and our education, Dr. Paul Catalana.
So someone told me I could use a bobby pin to keep this on, but for some reason it didn't work. Someone suggested a safety pin, but I thought that might be a problem. There's been a lot of thank yous. Forgive me, I have a few more. And I have to start with repeating some thank yous. For Dr. Pastides, the president of the University of South Carolina, and his board of trustees, and Mr. Michael Reardon and the board of trustees at the Greenville Health System. Without their vision, without their insight, without their dedication, we wouldn't be here today. In many ways, 3 people built this medical school, and I certainly was not one of them. But Dr. Jerry Yuki, our dean, Dr. Spence Taylor, our senior associate dean, and Dr. Lynn Crespo, our associate dean for education. The hours that they spent and the commitment that they had must not go unrecognized. And finally, what an honor it is to have Dr. Darrell Kirsch here. As president and CEO of the Association of American Medical Colleges, for him to be here at this first graduation is a real honor. So thank you. But who deserves the most thanks? Obviously, these young men and women in front of us. You came to us from just over 1,400 applicants. You came from 18 colleges and universities. And in large part, because of your dedication, because of your commitment, and because of your work, those numbers have now grown to over 4,200 applications this past year, and with over 50 colleges and universities represented here. So there's been a lot of thank yous, but no more thank you goes to each and every member of our charter class. So I thought about what I should share with you over the next few minutes, and I thought the best thing to do was really to remind you of what you shared with us on the admissions committee when you applied here. So I went through your personal statements. Yes, every personal statement, and your applications, and you said some wonderful things. One of you said this: I accept my road to becoming a physician is yet filled with uncertainties and challenges, but I will let that neither deter nor intimidate me because I know that I am up to the task. And I have wanted nothing else for as long as I can remember. So, were you up to the task? Well, each and every one of you here passed step 1 and step 2 on your first attempt. Each and every one of you here matched. That's pretty unusual for a legacy school, let alone a brand new school. So congratulations, you are indeed up to the task as you move forward. Another one of you said this: medicine is a real life, down and dirty, modern day way of loving your neighbor. Not because you know them or feel bad for them, but because they are a fellow human in need. So, how have you done? No doubt, the patients that you have cared for, you have done so with grace and compassion. You have volunteered throughout this community and throughout this world, whether it's playing with children from Marshall Pickens Hospital to serving others in Haiti. You have indeed demonstrated your love and commitment to those you will be serving. So let's fast forward. It's 6 months from now. You're in your residency. You're beginning to feel a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more self-assured, but you're becoming tired, understandably so. and the reality of the work is beginning to settle in. With routine, you're becoming tired. And when you become tired, then comes a risk of complacency. And with it, a detachment from your patients and a risk of cynicism will settle in. What should your response be? Let's go back to your personal statements. One of you said this when you were on a mission trip. His embrace and his token of appreciation reminded me of how even a small act of kindness could make such a difference in a life, both his and my own. Another said this, the science behind clinical medicine is only the tip of the iceberg. It's bedside manner, being personable, respecting other physicians and non-physicians, and being able to think on your feet are all things of equal or greater importance. And finally, one of you said this, I am drawn to situations that are not glamorous, but rather roles of service. Vulnerability, trust, those are the basis of the caregiver-patient relationship. Now, parenthetically, there will be times when you need to get the job done. You will be focused on the problem and not on the patient. But even when you do your job, class, and even when you do it well, and you will do it well, I have no doubt, the patient and the family will still be there. They'll still require your attention, your compassion, and your patience. Remember this, please. A delay in communication does not imply that communication is unnecessary. A task completed is just that, a task completed. But medicine is so much more than just accomplishing the task at hand. But you know all these things. You wrote them. And you might say they're somewhat naive or even somewhat cliche. They are not. But it is true, I'll admit, that the impact of reminding yourself of a comment on a personal statement or of an experience in medical school will, as time goes by, diminish. So moving forward, how do I protect ourselves from what some, unfortunately and correctly, have described as becoming part of a profession dominated by impatient, cynical, disrespectful individuals who communicate poorly and are focused on themselves rather than others? In other words, practically, what can you do over the next 10, 20, and 30 years to protect yourself and to maintain the compassion that each of you expressed when you entered medical school? I would encourage you to do this. I would encourage you to develop what I call a personal storyline, made up of patients you encounter in your career. Cultivate and foster these experiences and allow them to serve as a continuous reminder of why you are where you are and why you are doing what you are doing. If I'm asking you to do that, you should ask me, do I do that? And I have. And some of those stories are really sad, but most of them are wonderfully glorious. But I remember having lunch with Juanetta's mom about a week before Juanetta passed away from cystic fibrosis after multiple hospitalizations. I can see it like it was yesterday. I remember a very long night in the ICU with Bradley's parents after a horrific accident. And I remember Kirby, so sick from sickle cell disease, in large part because I missed the fact that his spleen was so large that it was eating up all his red blood cells. I totally missed it. But there are far more happier stories. For me, it's kids, children sharing pictures with me, running up with a report card. I remember a little boy who just looked at me when I walked in the room and said, "What scared you so much to let your hair fall out? I don't understand that." I didn't like him after that, but. A little girl, as I washed my hands with waterless gel, she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm killing all the germs." She looked at me and she goes, "Well, where do they go?" I had no idea where they went. Still bothers me today. And no one will give you more joy than a foster parent. Taking care of children who would never have a chance, especially a foster grandmother. Oh, they're the best, as they love those children. So, those are some of mine. I want you to start your personal storyline. To conclude, more than 30 years ago, required reading for residents and interns like myself, yes, 30 years ago, there was a book called The House of God, and it was written, quote, as an outcry for the humane treatment of interns so that our generation of doctors would not harden into the cold personas of our attending physicians. Now, changes have been made. Work hours are shorter. The number of procedures are limited. There, thank goodness, is a far greater emphasis on student and resident well-being. But not all has changed. Doctors are still at risk, you are, I am, of being seen by their patients as distant, disgruntled, disengaged, and distracted. How then can you avoid becoming one of those disengaged, disgruntled physicians? The solution depends first and foremost by a personal commitment to care well for yourselves and to care well for one another. You will not be well simply because you're working a few shorter hours than I did. You will not be well simply because your procedures are more limited by those work hours. If you need help, class, get it. Many of you have heard me say this. If you need help, don't be embarrassed and give yourself the grace that you will give to all of your patients throughout your career. Take good care of yourselves, emotionally, physically, spiritually. Secondly, a lifelong commitment to remembering what your patients teach you, share with you, and demand of you. So start your storyline today, class. First, by remembering those patients who, although frightened, ill, oftentimes confused, surely dismayed, allowed you to be a part of a very personal journey as they strove to get better or as they tried to die with dignity and grace. Secondly, add this to your storyline. I added it this year. When a panel member, a patient, was talking to the first-year class, and she said this, never forget this. She said, "You spend 10 minutes deciding what to do with me. I spend a lifetime with the decision you make for me." Use those 10 minutes wisely, class, because those decisions do indeed have lifetime implications. Now, this all sounds well and good, but I would be foolish to say that this personal storyline is always going to get you through, because there will be times when it will be ineffective. At those times, I would encourage you to do this. Pause to remind yourself that be it not for the grace of God, you might be that very patient that is irritating you. You might be that very patient that is in the situation that is frustrating you and annoying you. Take time to learn your patient's stories. And as you already know, and as you will soon be reminded again and again and again, so-called non-compliant patients are never non-compliant by choice, but usually non-compliant by necessity. And if you listen to their story, it just takes on a whole new perspective. Finally, remember why you started with EMT training? You started it because we wanted to introduce you to your community and to demonstrate how socioeconomic determinants of healthcare and how healthcare disparities impact your patients through no fault of their own. Remember some of the bedrooms you walked into. Remember some of the homes you saw. Remember, as Dr. Yuki says every week to those interviewing with us, your patient's illness does not begin when they enter the hospital, nor does it end when they leave the hospital. It begins in their community, and it begins in their homes, and it begins with all of the issues that so many of our patients face as they try to take care of themselves. So it is your job, class, to work tirelessly to become champions of change with the courage to speak up for those who, through no fault of their own, cannot speak for themselves. After all, one of you said this in your personal statement: I have yet to find a profession at its definitive core as genuinely altruistic as the practice of medicine. So, you took a chance on us. You toured a school with hard hat and safety glasses. Literally. You heard about a curriculum that didn't exist, and you came to a school that at the time you interviewed had a handful of faculty. All I can say is thank you. Speaking for all of us, we are so proud, we are so thankful, we are so grateful, because we know we will be in good hands. Who knows? One of us may be part of your storyline, but if it is, make it a happy part, okay? Not a sad part. So thank you, and God bless each and every one of you. Charter class. I said several thank yous when I started. There's one that I purposely left out because I knew I would have a chance to do that now. A friend, a mentor, someone who has taught me so much since he and I started working together. Dr. Jim Buggy, our Associate Dean of Student Affairs and Admissions, will now come to the podium to get to where you really want to get to and introduce the class. Dr. Buggy.
Hello, everybody. Our charter class, and you made a great selection for speakers. Dr. Catalana, those were wonderful remarks. So our students are leaving to go backstage and line up, and I'll have the privilege and honor of calling their names individually, and they'll come across the stage, and they'll be greeted by Dean Yuki and our Senior Associate Dean for Academic Affairs and Diversity, Spence Taylor. And so in these minutes that the students go back, I'd like to remind you that we don't need flash photography. We have a photographer here who has the best seat in the house, the best camera in the house, and he'll be taking photos, and we'll make those photos available to the students and all the families and friends through our website. So all of those photos will be free to you, and they'll be very good. So the Dean and Dr. Taylor are on their marks, and the students will come by. Now you're going to have the students in the middle, right? What we call a Dean sandwich. The other thing that I would like to ask the audience is please refrain from clapping or shouting during the procession of the students, because we want to be able to hear each student's name when it's called. But I promise you, once all the students have come across the stage and go back to their seats, we'll recognize them all very loudly and with a lot of joy and appreciation. I'd like to call Amr Muhammad Ansari. Kara Lauren Barlow. Ryan Jeffrey Batson. Robert Blaney Bonanno. Chanel Lynn Bonds. Natalie Lynn Bott. Charles Philip Callahan, Jr. Alexis Michelle Cannon. Michelle Francis Caskey. Thomas Jeffrey Cochran. Jensen Kristen Cohn. Amanda Michelle Craig. Brittany Kaiser Crum. Kindle Wessel Dankovich. Jennifer Susan Davis. Matthew Davison Eisenstadt. Eric Stephen Fulmer. Trevor Stephen Gravely. Christine Lynn Griffin. Maya Maria Nelson Griffin. Christina Shelley Guda. Reba Maglin Halsey. Molly Catherine Hamilton. Justin Alexander Harold. Alyssa Ann James. John Evan James IV. Benjamin Keith Johnson. Alec Wilson Kitch. Stuart William Lee. Georgia Grace Lesser. Julie Renee Lortz. Madison Lee Merritt. Christopher John Parsons. Catherine Ann Peterson. Shay Bilby Ray. Shane Gregory Regard. Jennifer Hope Reinofsky. Kyle Matthew Ryberg. Elise Joy Sadow. Andrew Griffith C. Chelsea Rose Smith. Stephen Dane Swinehart, Jr. Robert Kyle Townsend. Charlotte Frances Van Hale. Jeffrey Carson Vanderwood. Benjamin Joseph Belkey. Samantha Caroline Ward. Paige Cribb Woodham. Daryl Terrence Wright. Thank you, Dean. So we'll wait a moment until all the students are back in their positions. At this time, I'd like to ask all the students to stand. And I'd like all the audience to recognize these students with a round of applause and some cheers. How about that? I couldn't hear you. One more loud cheer. Come on. Okay, thank you very much. Charter class, we love you very much.
So when I came, I wasn't sure how I was going to close this. And as usual, it was given to me. I want to tell you three things. First of all, you'll see the students, I think, with the book, which they got handed on the way out. Dr. Billy Bolton, one of our thoracic surgeons, actually thoracic, cardiac, general surgery, and so forth. Billy has led the charge to prepare the first publication called Proceedings from GHS that is a summary of the scholarship and work done from GHS and the medical school over a number of years. Some of the students have articles in there as well. If you get a chance, it's a great thing to look at. So that's the first thing to let you know. The second thing, I'm going to read this to you. Once again, there'll never be another inaugural class for me. I thank this class from the bottom of my heart. This is the letter that I was given by Ryan. It's from Susan Ward, who's my Senior Director for Development. It is with immense pleasure that I share with you the confidential efforts of the charter class of the University of South Carolina School of Medicine, Greenville, to establish an endowed scholarship in your name for our medical students. The gifts received from the class will be used to help create a $50 million endowment that will serve as a perpetual reminder of your wisdom, insight, and integrity. Congratulations, Dean Yuki. Your vision for the school is and always has been simple: to transform medical education to prepare a new generation of physicians who care compassionately, teach innovatively, and improve constantly. Indeed, this vision has become a reality. Our graduates, armed with a hands-on clinical training from day one, leave here fully prepared to respond to the changing healthcare needs of our communities. Dean Yuki, thank you for your vision, your innumerable contributions to this institution, and your extraordinary achievements. Kudos on this well-deserved recognition. Thank you very much, and you are the testimony to our vision. I couldn't be more proud of you, I don't know what else to say to you, so thank you. The last thing that I'll share with you, again, testimony to today, so I'm going to read this to you. This is a proclamation from Mayor Knox White. Whereas numerous business and community leaders, local officials, physicians, educators, and interested citizens from throughout the state work toward the establishment of the University of South Carolina School of Medicine, Greenville. And whereas the USC School of Medicine Greenville is committed to training the next generation of physicians to address the unique healthcare needs of our community and serve as a model for the future of medical education. And whereas in just 4 years, the school students have volunteered more than 25,000 hours to serving our citizens through community service and work as emergency medical technicians. And whereas USC School of Medicine Greenville is recognized as an international leader in the development and advancement of lifestyle medicine education. And whereas on Friday, May the 6th, 2016, the support of the community will be visibly rewarded when the University of South Carolina School of Medicine Greenville graduates its charter class. Now, therefore, I, Knox H. White, Mayor of the City of Greenville, South Carolina, do hereby proclaim May the 6th, 2016 as USC School of Medicine Greenville Day in the City of Greenville, and on behalf of City Council, encourage all citizens to participate in the celebration. Signed, Knox White. This is the community thanking everyone here, but especially thanking the class of 2016. So once again, y'all did terrific. And with that, I'm going to close. I'm going to ask everyone, please, to let the students and the platform party recede first, and then please meet us in the lobby where there will be snacks and beverages. Enjoy it all. Take all the flash pictures you like, and turn on your cell phones and text everyone you can and let them know. I hope I'll see as many of you tomorrow as can make it to commencement in Columbia, and certainly hope to see the class there. So thank you very much for coming this evening.